I'm reading from the King James Version. Genesis chapter 15. God's covenant with Abraham. Verse 1, and I read. After these things the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield and your exceeding great reward. Verse 2. And Abraham said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? Verse 3. And Abraham said, Behold, to me you have given no descendants, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. Verse 4. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, These shall not be your heir, but he that shall come forth out of your own body shall be your heir. Verse 5. And he brought him forth outside and said, Look now toward heaven, and count the stars, if you be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall your descendants be. Verse 6. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Verse 7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought you out of the Chaldees, to give you this land to inherit it. Verse 8. And he said, Lord God, how shall I know that I shall inherit this? Verse 9. And he said unto him, Take me a heifer 3 years old, and a female goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Verse 10. And he took unto him all this, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece, one great another. But the birds divided he not. Verse 11. And when the birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. Verse 12. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. Verse 13. And he said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that your descendants shall be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Verse 14. And also that nation whom shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out of great possession. Verse 15. And you shall go to your fathers in peace, and shall be buried in a good old age. Verse 16. But in the fourth generation they shall come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. Verse 17. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. Verse 18. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto your descendant have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Verse 19. The Canaanites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites. Verse 20. And the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Raphaim. Verse 21. And the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Gigashites, and the Jebusites. This ends our reading. We are continuing our reading from Genesis chapter 16, Hagar and Ishmael. Verse 1, and I read. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bore him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Verse 2. And Sarah said unto Abraham, Behold, now the Lord has restrained me from bearing. I pray you go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. Verse 3. And Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife. Verse 4. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Verse 5. And Sarah said unto Abraham, The wrong done to me be upon you. I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and you. Verse 6. But Abraham said unto Sarah, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Do to her as it pleases you. And when Sarah dealt harshly with her, she fled from her face. Verse 7. And the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, where did you come from, and where will you go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarah. Verse 9. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to your mistress, and submit yourself under her hands. Verse 10. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, that they shall not be numbered for multitude. Verse 11. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. Verse 12. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his brethren. Verse 13. And she called the name of the Lord that spoke unto her, You God, see me. For she said, Have I also here seen him that sees me? Verse 14. Therefore the well was called Belaharo. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Verse 15. And Hagar bore Abraham a son, and Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bore Ishmael. Verse 16. And Abraham was 86 years old after Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham. This ends our reading.